What's up, everybody, and welcome back for the second episode of Solo Citizen. And this one, we're going to be just kind of generally talking about the stuff going on in the verse while I am salvaging, right? That good old reclaimer salvaging that's really popular right now. And I'll tell you what, after this video, if you're not completely motivated to go out there and, use a reclaimer, then I don't know what to tell you. But there's been a lot of replication layer testing going on the past week or so. I think a lot of it kind of has trailed off by this point, mostly because of the holidays and everything. And I do enjoy seeing this kind of level of testing going on the tech preview. There's been a few hot patch or hot fix channels and everything that's been going on, and they're really trying to push this replication layer, I think, and get it in play for 2024, which is really nice. I've been playing Star Citizen for many years, and the amount of progress that has been going on this past 12 months has been definitely an improvement over what has happened in the previous years and things like that. And a lot of these systems that they're getting in play right now, and I think structural salvaging is a very important step, and also just like the cargo grid stuff that they've got implemented now, all that stuff is kind of the building blocks for a lot of the features that I'm looking forward to. Personal hangars being one of them. Freight elevators is something that is going to be a very good addition to the game. That stuff is going to be coming Q1. Well, at least that's what they've been saying. But the way that if you haven't done any if you haven't watched like any of the con stuff or anything, but the way the freight elevator stuff will work, you'll have your ship in your hangar. You shouldn't at that point have any harbor master issues, so you can kind of just stay in that hangar forever. I think it'll be probably an instanced hangar at that point. And then the cargo elevator will basically be on the side. It'll be a hangar, a freight elevator on the side that you'll be able to use a terminal. And you'll be able to call down ground vehicles. You'll be able to call down probably smaller ships, and also just cargo. I've just wanted for a very long time to be able to, for instance, go out in the reclaimer and fill it up, and then go dock at a station, and then just kind of store that salvage for like transport at a later date. Maybe go on a run with the Hull C. The Hull C can hold like 4,000 plus SCU, and so doing runs like that to a TDD would be a lot better right now. And what I've kind of grown accustomed to with like mining and things is you essentially have to go and mine your ore, refine it into a hauler, and then sell that if you want to free up that hauler space. And I think it'll be nice and something I'm really looking forward to be able to stockpile goods. And whenever the market starts to fluctuate based on supply and demand, then we're going to get into a situation where holding salvage, holding construction materials, and RMC and things like that for good market prices is going to be one of the biggest things that you're going to be kind of doing. And that's kind of stuff I like. That's a lot of the stuff that I do in games like EVE Online and things. Right now, based on the past 3 years of me playing Star Citizen, doing mining, doing bounties, doing bunker missions, doing all types of gameplay across the game, right now solo salvaging just feels like absolutely overpowered. The amount of credits you can make in just an hour of gameplay is staggering. I do believe that feeling I get of being very overpowered, very lucrative situation, I believe that feeling is going to trigger the CIG to actually nerf these missions. What do I think that the nerf will look like? I don't know. When I first started salvaging before structural, you'd go out there and you do like your fee missions. I like to call them fee missions, but depending on the size of the ship, you'd pay like 1,000, 5,000, 20 or 50,000. Like a hammerhead fee mission is like 50,000. And then you go out there, you pay that fine to get access to that ship, and then you go out there and you'd salvage it and stuff like that. The only real difference between like doing what I call just the regular hammer missions, what I'm doing right now, the ones that are non-fee, The big difference, if I'm doing like a fee mission for a hammerhead, I will scrape the hull because you want to try to juice out that 50k fee that you kind of went into with that. And also, you just don't get the 250. Like, even if you get like 50,000, which is not hard, RMC is like 13, 14k per SCU. So if you do like 4 or 5 RMC off the hull, you'll get your fee back, and then you'll get probably another million or a million and a half from the CMAT. But also, you're just not getting that other 200k that you get with these missions. These missions out here are all in the same area. They don't require a fee. They you fracture it and you get 250,000, which I think they might lower. I don't know how they'll nerf it. I have no idea. They might lower that reward for the mission, or they might attach a fee to it. I don't really. That would seem like if they attach a fee to it, then I think that would just be like kind of redundant because of the other missions that are out there, and the fee missions are not really that attractive to do anyway because they have you going all over and traveling. You spend a lot of time traveling there. One of the biggest draw for just these hammerhead missions I'm doing right here is you don't have to travel. They're all around Yila, right? There's no fee. Every time you fracture, it's 250,000. You do 4 of them, that's $1 million. I usually go after doing like 6 runs or so, and just kind of fill up. I've gotten pretty comfortable with stacking these 16 SCU containers. The biggest thing here is actually once you fracture and disintegrate that hull, I get out of trespass zone, and then just to keep from any bugs kind of going on, I bring my ship down to a standstill. I don't really like the ship be moving while I'm actually moving around the interior. You never know what'll happen, especially in the reclaimer, because we have to use 2 elevators just to get to salvage processing. It's about after several runs of hammerheads, from like contract to finishing the actual process and heading back up to the seat, it's probably like 11 to 12 minutes. Your first initial runs are going to be a lot quicker because you're not really worried too much about stacking because everything is bare. Once you start filling up the process room, then it starts to take a little bit more time, right? Like right here, this is our first run. So, what's another thing I wish that they would change too is, like leave the setting on there, because auto eject doesn't mean anything on this stuff, because every time it stops, it goes back to 1 SCU per 1 second, and then once you fill up your buffer, it doesn't actually spit anything out because it's wanting you to reselect that, right? I feel like you should leave it at 16 on 16 seconds, and then when you go back up to do your second mission and you get some more in your buffer, it should just, when I come down here, I should already have 2 16s sitting out here. It works like that for the Vulture, but the Vulture only has 1 setting. You can only do 1 by 1s, so, or 1 SCU by 1 second, and so if I go up there and I just leave it on, I'm just doing run after run after run, then every time I come back down to kind of move stuff to the grid, that or even if I'm selling, if I've got the buffer completely full and I dock and I sell something, by the time I resummon that ship to hangar, then I've already got 1 already processed. So I also use the balcony, as you can see here, and it's the chains hanging from the wall can be a good thing and a bad thing. I will use the chains to sometimes spin. It's a little faster to spin the container if you like kind of hit the edge of the crate with them. But I usually, that first balcony run, I'll go 2 on the side and then 1 down the middle, and then as we progress kind of through this footage and all this stuff, and you'll see that you could fit basically 4 hammerheads worth of CMAT just in that back half of this processing room, and that's stacking all the way to the ceiling. I don't necessarily like going more than 6 hammerhead runs in a single kind of session, because it starts to get really precarious because of just stacking, a lot of crates moving. I think I only dropped like 1 crate, and dropping, I mean it clips out of the ship. You can actually, if you go back to the pilot seat, you can actually locate the ones that clip out of the ship, and they're either going to be above or below. and you can kind of position those to the back elevator. It's very difficult because of the way the back elevator is positioned on this ship, but it's 16 SU. It's probably not worth actually EVAing and getting it out and everything. The next thing I do here is I try to build a base by gridlocking. Once we actually gridlock these areas, clean it, like this one is clipped. Yeah, see, and you can't control it. Sometimes you'll go and like try to grab a crate and it'll just clip out. And I ended up finding that crate. It was outside, but I ended up just leaving it because trying to maneuver it into the elevator and everything, it was just not worth the time spent, right? But hopefully in this video you'll be able to definitely see in real time what the stacking game is for. And we're going to end up doing 6 of these hammerheads. So the first initial process here, and when we're stacking initially, is just going to be we're trying to build a good base on the bottom, and then we're going to just stack as much as we can. So usually I start on the balcony on run 1, and then also gridlock the base, and then run 2 I'll fill out the balcony a little bit more and start stacking second layer, and so forth. You'll kind of see that as we kind of go through this. But with all that being said, I do believe that probably somewhere around the first of the year we'll probably see some type of change to this process, because this is just ridiculously lucrative. I mean, if you buy the Reclaimer with in-game credits at 15 million, you can make that back. You can make back plus you can actually make back the cost of the Reclaimer plus another 10 million in just 2 hours. Actually, probably another 5 million. 2 hours, you could probably do like 20 million with this solo. So I see that as being something that the whole game like is just getting like, people are just getting rich. People are getting absolutely crazy rich here. And also, if you don't go too far away from the actual asteroid belt, then it's actually very easy to just kind of quantum warp to the next spot. And the reason, another tip I'll give you as well is, don't spool your quantum drive until after you accept the contract. Otherwise, you'll have to go into the star map and actually set route. If you accept the contract, you can see the prompt and everything, and then you go back out into your main view and then spool your quantum drive, then you'll be able to warp directly to it without going the extra step in the star map, which is something I found. Another possible way that they could probably nerf the CMAT and the RMC is probably lowering the base value. I do see that as a potential thing to kind of fix it. I don't think that it would. I don't think that would help too much though. Like, even if they brought like CMAT and stuff down to like 1K value, sure, it would make our runs cheaper, but it doesn't make our runs harder, right? Instead of doing like 1 hour, or like I usually do like 5 to 6 hammerheads a day, right? And so instead of doing that, I just do more hours, right? I just do more runs. So there's no telling. They might actually, and also we're just kind of like, a lot of this stuff is probably going to end up changing too, regardless. And once the player market is kind of opened up and everything is kind of moving based on like supply and demand, if everybody's out here doing this, then yeah, CMAT, RMC is all going to drop in value. And then also there'll just be a ton of competition out here, right? Right now I'm lucky and there's not a whole lot of people out here. So I essentially go process the hammerhead. I get out of trespass zone, I go process the hammerhead, and then I can pretty much be guaranteed another hammerhead contract the second I open up my mobiGlas again, which is great. Some days are better than others, right? Some days I have to wait a little bit, or I to do like a Constellation class mission, like an 80K Cutlass Black or something, but not usually, not really. I'm usually just able to do these hammerheads back to back, which feels absolutely overpowered like crazy. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward to everything that they're talking about right now. I know we got Pyro coming up pretty soon for 4.0, which will be great. I don't know if I'm going to be doing a lot of play in Pyro. I see it as being a very, I see it being like a low sec kind of a situation. If I was to compare kind of like conflict levels across like from like EVE Online to like Star Citizen, I would definitely suspect that like Pyro is going to feel a lot like low sec in the lawlessness. It really depends. I might actually take some ships out there and just kind of like, you know, mess around in there. But if it turns out to be something that is not necessarily part of like my play style or something that I enjoy, then I'll probably avoid it. It really depends. I think once we, everybody will be in there, right? You can just, that's where the crowd's going to go. You're going to have Pyro open up. A lot of people are going to be over there doing content and stuff and everything. Like, a lot of my enjoyment in Star Citizen is still in the industrial stuff. And the thing is like, I love mining in this game. I think mining needs some work, especially if you compare mining to salvaging right now. Mining is a very, very, is in a very, very bad spot. Now, also, that's like comparing apples and oranges, right? There's a lot of involvement with mining, and that's kind of the biggest problem. It takes you a long time to find a rock when you're mining. Once you find one, you might not be able to mine it because of mass or whatever the case may be. So if you're really picky and you really try to get a lot of value in like your mole or your prospector, you could spend hours or more just locating rocks. And this is very apparent in, like, if you watch my solo mole video, we get like halfway through that video before I even find a rock and turn lasers on. That's a big problem for me. I do, and that's probably a more of a solo thing. But like, even if I had two other players in the ML with me, we're not finding good rocks that's worth the time, right? And if we do find a good rock, it's usually low volume, so we have to find multiples. So I see that mining might change again, honestly. If they want to try to like bring up I think salvaging is in a really good spot right now. Hull scraping is probably is not worth doing. It takes too long. It's very buggy. Sometimes you don't even get the hull off, and it is worth more per SCU, but it takes way too long when you can just go frack disintegrate, right? I think that a lot of what they talked about in the past with like the Orion and stuff, the Orion was going to be like this. It had this huge grinder on the front, and it was going to be able to like tractor in these larger asteroids that other mining ships couldn't do, and sit there and just kind of grind it down. That's interesting to me because now that the way that they've done salvaging, you can almost expect there to be kind of a fracture disintegration gameplay for the Orion as well, where you would tractor in a large asteroid to you, you'd fracture it with the grinder, right? And then that grinder would then just start, kind of eating away the fragments. And I think that's actually better gameplay too. It's like, I personally, I would like mining in Star Citizen to be where you still have to regulate power, but like you have a mining laser on the rock that slowly like kind of eats it away. So you would lose control of being able to just ignore chunks of inert. You just get whatever the inert percentage is based on the rock composition. But you could just sit there and like you'd find a rock. If it's like a lot of mass, it would take you longer to kind of eat it away. But you could just put that laser on that rock and just kind of, you could literally just bore a hole right through the middle and just like kind of eat it away from the outside and everything. And I think that would be a lot more entertaining. And you could just control like your power. You could actually go too high on your power. Maybe if your power was too high, then you would have some sort of a waste assigned to it. But right now, compared to like everything that's come out with like salvaging and a lot of the other types of gameplay, mining feels way underscored for everything. It just takes too long and for no real benefit. And like I said, I'm a big mining fan, and I'm really looking forward to the Astra that's coming out. That's going to be a ship that I'm going to be messing around with solo. Size 3 lasers, all that good stuff, onboard refining. That's the other thing too. I believe that structural salvaging is the foundation of how the Astra is going to work with, and they haven't really talked a lot about how refining on board is going to work in those ships. And I truly believe that if salvaging doesn't change a whole lot, I think that the way that this is working on the Reclaimer is going to be really close to how refining is going to work on the Astra. Because if you think about it in terms of, let's think about it in terms of downtime, right? They don't want any downtime, especially for multi-crew vehicles like that, because if refining stayed like it is now on station, where you would take, a couple, like, you take like, it usually takes like 8 hours to refine a mole's worth of cargo, right? They can't follow those same rules on a ship, right? If you're mining in the Arastra and you fill it up, and then you're looking at 12 to 16 hours just to refine it, to clear the buffer, just so you can mine again, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that we'll probably have something like this, where you have a refining room, and you have somebody down here, and you're selecting basically SCU boxes, just like you are salvaging. Like, you want to refine 16 SCU in 16 seconds, and then it'll do that, and it's going to work a lot the same way. That minimizes downtime. There might be some waste involved with that, but I think that would kind of bring mining up to par for the most part. And that's interesting too, because then you don't have to necessarily be picky, right? So like, if the ship actually throws out, like if you go and take your mole or your prospector to a refining station in a station, it's going to throw out all the inert, right? You're not going to see all that. If the Arastra actually throws out inert as well, then you can just kind of ignore a lot of the percentages on rocks. You'd be going after just volume. You'd find a cluster of rocks, you get 3 people on laser, you just eat everything, absolutely just strip mine everything. And then your refining process, your boys down in the refining room are just going to like be refining that stuff as you get it and stacking it off, and that inert would just get thrown away. So that's why I'm not doing a whole lot of mining right now. I think mining is going to change significantly once that new mining shift gets more development done to it. So I don't know if they're going to go away from the way fracking and stuff like that works with mining. I think that even with 3 players on size 3 lasers, you're going to be able to crack most rocks in the game relatively quickly, probably faster than what refining is. And also, refining on stations is just broken. The meta used to be just going out and just getting as much quant as possible, throwing it in regardless of like the surcharge, and then take it to TTD and then just make a killing, right? Now that quant is a little bit rarer, and some of the other ores like gold and stuff like that are a little bit more valuable, the meta now is just to sell raw because of the gross exaggeration of the surcharge percentage on stations. It just doesn't make any sense, right? If I go out and even get a really good, like let's say a majority Bexelite run on my mole, I'm gonna spend probably 9,000 credits, and I'm gonna have to wait 8 hours to get that stuff, and it's just not worth it. I mean, like, yeah, a lot of the ore value going from raw to refined, doubles in value, but it's like you're assuming a lot of risk there as well. It's like just to double the value of that, I have to have a hauler on hand, so that those work orders jobs can go into a hauler. And then once I fill that hauler up after waiting multiple hours, because it's like, if you take like a Constellation Taurus like I used to do, it's like 170 something SCU, or God forbid you have like a C2 Hercules or something that has like 600 SCU, it could take you all day to mine enough in a mole to fill that up, right? And each time you put those work orders in, you're going to wait 8 hours. Then you have all that value, all that crazy value sitting in one ship that you have to fly to a TDD and hope you don't get disconnected, hope you don't get interdicted, hope you don't get attacked or whatever. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense, right? Like, refining just needs to change in some form or another. And I think that that's exactly what's happening, right? They're not talking about refining right now because it's going to change. And who knows, like, are they going to make it? That's another question I've had too. It's like, you have all these refining ships coming out, and are they going to make it to where the incentive is to maybe refine in station over in your ship by offering better bonuses in the station? Maybe. We don't know. I think that even if they did that, people would still refine in their ships, because they could do the whole live on kind of light RP that a lot of people are doing right now with the Reclaimer, which is actually very interesting. Being able to go out there and and just kind of like hang out and stay in your reclaimer or your Astra or whatever, your Carrack, and just kind of hang out. And as we get more systems in the game, they're definitely leaning towards people going out on longer expeditions and having longer times between docking. I know a lot of people on YouTube are doing like the whole like live on the reclaimer and do like the salvage crew like RP, but it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't take any time at all to fill up this ship with salvage. And so even for me, if I don't like drop in Grim Hex, like normally I'll drop in Grim Hex if there's like nobody on the server, and I can I go like really close to Grim Hex, kind of scan, see what's going on. But if there is people kind of camping for reclaimers, I'll just go to like Hurl L5, land on pad 4, refuel, sell, done, right? And that's the thing, is even the people who are living on these ships for long term, that's a great concept. But until we have ships, or you have fleets of people who are going out with the intention of staying out for a long time, unless you can like make your own fuel, and the Arastra is not going to be able to like refine for fuel. It's literally, they've said in article that it's going to be one of those ships that's just going to be pure refining, right? The actual refining ship that it'll come out, which will probably come out after the Arastra is going to be like probably level 1 of on-ship refining testing. And then they'll scale that up for the pure built refining ship, which will be able to make its own fuel. Like the Odyssey, I think that's the Odyssey or the Expanse. I can't remember. It's one of those, but it can mine and it also refine, but purely for fuel purposes. And so right now it's like, yeah, it would be great to just go out there and like spend a week, living in your reclaimer. But after about a couple of days, you're gonna have to refuel and sell and stuff, which I guess is fine. Like it's like stopping at a gas station for the most part, right? Especially if you like go to like Hurl L5 or any of these like stations that allow you to kind of hit one of those outdoor pads and refuel. You can just kind of run in, resupply yourself with some drinks, some food, sell. But you're gonna be doing that once a day anyway, if that's the case. Actually, you're gonna be probably doing that once an hour. If you run 3 or more people in a reclaimer, you're gonna fill up real quick. And also, I think that if I was ever in a situation where I was actually running the reclaimer with multiple people, and I had dedicated salvage room technicians, as it were, I think that I would have them actually spit out 2 SCU boxes. Yeah. Because then you could actually gridlock and you could utilize the cargo bay and the salvage storage, because, it's very difficult to get those 16 SCU boxes down there. So I would have them actually run at 2 SCU boxes and fill up the... have basically 2 people running it. So you'd have one person go in elevator. One person would just be stacking in front of that elevator 2 SCU boxes. Then the other person would just come up to the salvage processing. They'd load the elevator with a bunch of 2 SCU boxes. They'd go down to cargo, gridlock those. Once you can't fit anything else into the cargo storage area, then that person in the processing room would just start throwing 2 SCU boxes down the chute, while the other person in the salvage storage below gridlocking down there. Once those 2 cargo bays are completely full, then I would have them switch to 16 SCU boxes and just absolutely go crazy stacking. Even then, it might still be better to do 2 SU boxes, because they would stack you better. They'd stack easier. There wouldn't have any grid issues, and it would be there'd be 2 people there, and they'd be doing it fast enough that it wouldn't have to have to worry too much about it. And then everybody up here in the bridge, right? You'd be if you had to wait for like Hammerhead missions, or you had to do like Constellation, like 80Ks and stuff like that, there's probably enough downtime between like quantum warping or like getting out of trespass zone, and then looking for contracts, and quantum warping, and then getting in position, and then fracking. It's like 5 minutes, right? From grabbing the contract all the way to disintegrating the hull, it's like 5-6 minutes. Which is even if your 2-person team down there is doing 2 SCU boxes, that's enough to make room for that frac, right? And that's just going to be communication between the bridge and the process room, right? If they're getting really close to disintegrating, then they might have to communicate that and start throwing out 16s just to kind of keep up. But yeah, I think you could probably actually fit more safely by doing 2 SCU boxes, because 16s are a little finicky right now. Hopefully they'll fix them. That would be nice if they actually ended up fixing them, but it's hard to say, right? There's a lot of things that need to go into play, and a lot of things that people complain about is the lack of progress I see in Star Citizen. And the thing is like, I've been playing for several years, and a lot of the stuff you just got to be look into like the systems that they're actually developing, right? Like structure salvaging, it took a while. Salvaging in general took a while, or just like cargo reformatting and stuff like that, cargo grids, all that stuff. Like usually the systems they're working on will directly affect the other things that they're trying to do. Like the Arastra, for instance, that mining ship is going to be able to hold like 600 plus SCU. So it's going to be probably, I think, as long as they can like balance mining and everything, I think that it will. Let's say they don't like nerf Reclaimer right now in salvaging. This will be the king of hourly credits until the Arastra comes out, if they do it right. At that point, the major income generator is going to be probably the Arastra. You get 3 people in mining turrets. You go out and you just start like eating everything, and then you fill up like imagine filling up the Arastra with like Bex gold, Terranite, Laranite, all that stuff. You're gonna have a killing. You're gonna have a lot more value per SCU going out into that. And I think that would be actually an interesting thing to see. And we're probably several years from the Arastra, maybe, if at best. But I think that I do, like I said earlier in this video, I think that mining just definitely needs to kind of be looked at again, especially if they're going to use what they're learning with this, with the whole structure salvaging and this processing on the Reclaimer as a base of going after onboard ship refining, which I think they will. I 100% believe that onboard ship refining is going to be very similar to kind of what we're doing here with this, which is fine. This is great gameplay. But I think even though they say they don't want to like completely eliminate solo play, I still think that they lean more towards multi-crew for obvious reasons. But the amount of credits you can make with this ship right now, it just feels like it's begging for a nerf, right? So, and once they do nerf, every time they bring a patch out, every time I see the launcher with an update button, I go in there, I go to Spectrum, I look at the patch notes, I'm like, and usually just to be safe, I'll go into the game and run a Hammerhead mission just to see if anything changes. That is how confident I am that this is going to get nerfed, and I am just waiting, absolutely waiting for it. And I'll be interested to see. It's a cat and mouse game, right? I'm interested to see how they'll nerf it and how it'll affect. Like, does it completely break solo doing this? I don't think so. I don't think that they can break solo. I think that they can lower the value. I think that, if it goes from like making 10 million an hour down to like only maybe making 5, I think people will still do it. I mean, I primarily do solo content anyway, regardless of what game I play. So, and it's not really about the credits. It's just about kind of being self-sufficient. Not have to worry about coordinating with others. But I'm not opposed to playing with others either. It's just, I think Star Citizen is, until it becomes more mainstream and a lot more systems are kind of balanced out, I think I'm going to stick solo. Because the thing is like, I have a lot of friends that play like EVE Online who I've gotten to play Star Citizen with me, but the learning curve is so high that until this game is like feature complete and a lot of things are more polished, they're probably not going to, dedicate a lot of time into learning it, which sucks because getting a fresh new player started and teaching them how to fly, and then also like if you're a mining person and you want to like get one of your friends in the mole with you to go mining, imagine how much learning they have to do. Not only do they have to learn how to interact with the world, they have to learn how to fly their ship. They have to learn like the nuances of bed logging. They have to then learn how to do actual mining. Because it's not like it used to be. It's like mole mining used to be so easy with multiple people because you'd have the Lancet the Lancet you could just put on the rock at 0 power and get that window size buff, and it's not really the case anymore. I mean, I run like Hoff 2s on the sides and like Helix on the front, and so these other players in these other turrets have to be able to know what's going on in terms of adjusting power. Like somebody might be at, like, if you're doing 30 power and you want to split it between 2 lasers, yeah, you're gonna have 15 on one and 15 on the other, and they have to be communicating and stuff. And that's a lot to learn for a new player, especially somebody coming into a brand new game. And also, it kind of depends on the game they are coming from as well. I mean, like if they're coming from Elite Dangerous, or if they are coming from, No Man's Sky, or even Eve. I mean, like some of these people are used to, some of these players are very used to like complicated game loops. But I think that Star Citizen, it does have a higher learning curve than a lot of that in terms of learning to fly, and also just mining in general. Like, right, the way that mining is, you have to really kind of play around the server delays and stuff. And like right now, if you one of the big annoying things with mining for me right now is, if I'm not careful, then the laser will just be at 100%, and when I go to turn it on, it'll go to 100 and it'll frack smaller rocks. So now you have to do this weird thing where I point the laser off into space, turn it on, make sure it doesn't go 100, then I move it over to the rock, just to make sure I don't blow up smaller stuff. And they have made mining, they balanced it a little bit in 3.22 by bringing rock difficulty down closer to prospector difficulty for mining. All I've really seen from that is just, bigger size. You see more like 20 to 40 SU rocks, which is great. Being able to like mine anything, if you're able to mine anything over 15 SEU with a prospector, it's pretty good. It's still very there's a lot of gaps, right? And that's one benefit of, like, that's why a lot of people that have usually just been a prospect miner, when they're playing solo, they've all moved to mole, because there's like very evident gaps in the mass difficulty for certain things. You could outfit your prospector in such a way that you could go up to a certain mass, but then if you find a really good rock that's really low mass, then your risk, it's even it's harder to mine that, because you're fitted for a higher mass rock. The reason that mole works a lot better is because I have like a Helix 2 on the front for, like, the really big stuff, and then usually on a really good rock I have to frack it once with the front laser, frack it all the other pieces again with the port laser, and then I can extract, which is obnoxious, right? Nobody wants to do that. It's a lot of like craziness going on there. And I think that's probably a big turnoff for people mining right now, is because you could spend like 20 minutes being picky, looking for a rock. You find one, you finally get in the mining seat, you realize, oh, my configuration can't actually even fracture this. So then you're back to the hunt, right? There's too many levels of variance that make it basically just a hunting game. And salvaging is not like that. I mean, other than like Venture not being able to the Vulture, other than the Vulture not being able to fracture like a hammerhead, once you know that, you're good. You go after 80Ks, Constellations, you go after Colorless Blacks, done. Right? There's no variance. You find a contract, you find the target, you can do it, you profit. So mining is going to be in a pretty bad spot with this going on right now. And what we'll do is, like, I'm doing all these runs so that we can just stack this processing room really, really high, and I'll show you guys what the true value of all this craziness is. But I guess that's a lot of ranting about mining right now and everything. I'm trying to get as many of these runs in, honestly, before, and it doesn't really actually matter, because if they do like another patch and they do, like, chances are what'll happen is, with the crazy amount of credits that people are making with salvaging right now, the patch that comes out that fixes it, they'll probably do a wallet reset. Mark my words. Just to bring everything down, because just leaving this gameplay up for like a couple of weeks means that even if they wanted to test long-term persistence, player wallets are going to be through the roof. Absolutely through the roof. So if they do deem it like egregious, and they fix it, then they'll probably reset the wallets. So a lot of what I'm doing now is just kind of practicing with the ship. I gotten really pretty good with landing this big boy. Reclaimer is pretty much the biggest ship I've ever flown, which I normally don't have problems. Like when I first got into like the C2 Herc, it was a little. I was used to like flying like Cutlass Blacks back then and Prospectors and Moles. When I first got in the Mole, I had some pretty difficult times with in Lorville. But it's like you spend a lot of time in these bigger ships and you get really used to it. Like I can go land the Reclaimer in Lorville. It takes a lot of time, just to amount of time to burn through the atmosphere. But as far as getting it into hangar, not really an issue. But I do suspect that they will nerf this in some way and probably do a wallet reset. A lot of the grinding I do right now is just to kind of test gameplay systems and stuff, to show you guys like how much you can make per hour for this, ship tours, things like that. And so a lot of the credits I'm actually getting from doing this right now allows me to buy other ships in game to potentially do videos over. But also I just find like the Reclaimer solo salvaging very very enjoyable right now. There's a lot of steps, right? And I probably haven't talked a whole lot about it, but it's like this. I always get out of trespass zone, because even if you're in trespass zone after you disintegrate everything, you won't be able to see that timer anymore for the mission. Once it goes 0, those reinforcements will still show up. Just fracking the ship doesn't call them off. So I always try to make sure I get all the way out of trespass area, bring the ship all the way down to 0, and that's just so nothing crazy happens in the elevators. And then I open these 2 doors right there you just saw me run through. I opened those doors specifically so I could cut through that area instead of going around the dining area. It saves time. And then I just go process room, and it gets pretty routine. I want to say I can do about 6 hammerheads in about an hour or 20 or so. It really depends on how much issues I'm having with stacking. And as you can see, as we start going further, we have several runs left to do. But like I'm waiting, like one thing I'll try to do is like when I'm waiting for the initial 16 seconds, I'll kind of look around, see if I need to resettle or anything. I like try to get those to lay flat up there so we can get. You can also try to get additional containers laying on top of them. But I'm really going to be using this main area in the middle there to just stack a bunch of stuff. But before I start going up in stacking, I try to at least fill the balcony. And then you want to be fast enough so that you don't trigger the blocked processor thing. That's probably not going to stay up there. Yeah. So I always try to like make sure they're kind of settled before I look away from them, because you don't want them falling on you. That would be a bad thing. But I purposely filled this thing up a crazy amount just to show what's possible. What you see in this kind of run, you could probably actually do double. You could actually fit probably a 12 hammerhead worth of SCU in here. And that's really stacking it to the ceiling. But I feel like whenever I get to the point where I'm on like the 6th run, with the way that everything is going, I feel like adding any more is just going to cause, like, it just takes one container to like start bouncing around crazily to blow up your ship event. So I try to not get greedy. So right now I'm just kind of like placing these guys in there. As long as you don't see sparks, good. You'll see probably 1 or 2 sparks when you lay it down, whatever, but you don't want things to go. So yeah, I'm just kind of watching it. And these crates are going to move around quite a bit, just based on collision and stuff like that. But you can go all the way up to the ceiling here, which is great. But now that we're pretty close to the holidays, I don't really see there being a whole lot of... I think they're pretty much done with replication layer testing for the most part. We probably won't see a major patch until sometime in January. And that'll probably be... that'll probably be a hot fix for salvaging, because they're probably going to get back from the holidays and they're going to look at their persistent database for the wallets and stuff. They're going to see like an absolutely insane amount of credits that people own, and then they're going to be like, what is going on here? And they're going to figure out that, oh, structured salvaging is crazy lucrative. And it's not even just crazy, like, it's not even just structured salvaging, actually. ERT and stuff like that, bounties are paying out a crap ton right now as well. So if you're not into salvaging, if you're doing ERTs right now, you're making a killing as well. So I feel like we're going to have an ERT and a structured salvaging nerf in some fashion. But I just want everybody to know that. Like, I know there's a lot of like new reclaimer pilots out there with 3.22. You've probably already paid off your ship if you bought it with credits in game, which is great. If you pledged it, I don't think they're going to nerf it enough to make it not worth the pledge. I think you're still, even as a solo player, having a reclaimer on your pledge is still really great. And the reason I think that it's a great addition on the pledge side is because when a new patch comes out and they wallet reset and they also do a ship reset, if you're starting that new patch and all you have is your reclaimer, you know you can go out there solo, and in a couple of days you can, you know, buy all the other ships that you use, like your Prospector or your Freelancer Max, or, you know, your Connie Taurus or whatever you use them for hauling, your C2 Herc. You can buy 2 C2 Hercs right now in an hour of solo mining in the reclaimer. So if you do like need a hauling ship, yeah, 5 million, right? The other thing they could do too is they could also just increase the prices for everything. I did see there was a PTU build, and I think it's probably still like that, or an ePTU build, where they inflated all the prices for all the ships in game, and that could be because they wanted strictly for people like, so that ePTU, people started with 15 million credits, and they also increased the price of all the other ships, right? That could have been because they just wanted people to test the reclaimer, but it could be indicative of them increasing prices in game. So, and those went from like, I think the Prospector went from like a 2 million ship to like, I want to say 3. I think the Vulture went up to like 3 million. The Mole went up to like 8 from 5. And it's just like all these ships were just almost doubling in price. That could be a way they fix it too, right? And like right now, I think the most expensive ship in the game is the Origin 980 Jump, which is like 34, 36 million or something like that. So if they literally just kind of double everything, then you're going to be looking at reclaimers being like 30 mil, which still wouldn't slow you down. You could still do like 3 hours. Like you could do 3 hours in a reclaimer right now and buy 980 easy without even trying. If you have people with you, if you have buddies with you, even better, because then while you're quantum warping, they're still processing, and it's just a lot of things become easier. That's why I just think that it's grossly over tuned right now, and they could be doing that for a reason, right? Like CIG might be in a situation where they're like, hey, let's make structure salvaging in the reclaimer insanely lucrative, because that would incentivize people to play the ship, and by playing the ship, they're testing the ship, right? Like imagine if like structure salvaging in the reclaimer was garbage compared to every other gameplay loop in the game. People are probably not going to play it, which means they get less information, they get less data. So they could be over-tuning salvaging right now just to incentivize people to test, and then they could bring it back down to a level, which is not unheard of. A lot of companies do that in terms of testing, right? Where they kind of like bracket testing. They make something crazy overpowered. A lot of people get in there. They have a lot of data, and then they tweak it down, right? So they could. Another thing that I would hate to see, though, is like if they required somebody to be sitting in the pilot chair in order for the processors to work. That would kill it. That would absolutely kill it. I think you'd see a lot of people probably getting alts. They'd probably get alts and just have them stay in the captain's chair. But I don't think that they'll go that route. I don't think that they're going to completely try to cut out solo players, because solo players are a big part of the community. So I don't think that that's going to be something that I don't think that's something that behooves them to do. If you completely cut out like solo play and solo and people would be able to do things like different gameplay solo, I think that would wreck a lot. And you gotta realize too is like, look how bad the interior design for the Mole's interior design is very much done so to de-incentivize people from soloing that ship, because everything being so far apart internally. And I think they're kind of getting away from that too. It's like, even with the Arastra and stuff, like the Arastra is going to have, just like the Reclaimer, remote turrets for all of its stuff kind of on the bridge, which is amazing. Imagine if the Mole had that, where the Mole had like remote turrets close to the bridge, where you didn't have to go through like 3 or 4 doors and down a ladder just to get to your port laser, right? They need to fix ladders, actually. Fixing ladders would probably make the Mole more enjoyable. It was broken for me in 2 or 3.21, where you like go up you like, say you're mining in the front laser of the Mole. You'd have a hard time. You'd get up like halfway the ladder, and then you drop to the bottom. And if you were lucky, you know, it hooked and you got all the way to the top. But then you get to the top, it would shoot you out, and then it put you back into the trigger for the ladder, spin you around like 360, and then you had to get back out. And it's working now. I don't see that being an issue in 3.22 with the Mole. It happens sometimes. Before this patch, it happened all the time. All right, let's get out of this trespass zone again. I think this is our 5th run, I think. But yeah, you could tell we're 5 runs. This is our 5th run in about 50 minutes. Pretty good. And if you're an experienced Reclaimer pilot, you're probably actually keeping track of everything. And if you have been keeping track, or if you want to guess in the comments about how much you think this whole run is going to be worth, including what you're going to sell, like the CMAT value and the actual mission reward, let me know in the comments, and then see if you guys are right at the end of the video. But it's insane. It definitely is. I like it though. I've been playing a lot of Star Citizen lately because of just how fun this is. But like I said, this is probably overtuned for testing purposes. Once, because like, you know, the Hull C was like basically the patch ship for what, 3.21. I thought about getting a Hull C because I used to mess around with like trading back in the day, back when like the Hercules class starships came out. We were still dealing with a lot of like 30Ks back then. It was pretty bad. So it was very common to like, you know, fill up a Hercules with a lot of cargo and then just 30K on your way to your sell point. So, and that's kind of been the problem for the past 3 years or so. Like before that, it was like people were doing the same thing with Caterpillars and things. The Hull C is great, right? It's just like, I don't think that you would realistically fill up 4,000 plus SCU doing like mining or salvaging, when it's just so easy just to sell raw if you're mining, or, you know, selling what's already processed in SCU boxes on the Reclaimer. The Hull C is essentially just like a trade ship, but my biggest problem with that gameplay loop is the cargo delivery thing, which I hope that they change. It's like you got dock on the docking port, and then you gotta like basically trigger, like, so let's say you're buying something, right? So you got dock at the docking port, go in there to the terminal, buy all the things, go back to your ship, undock, go to the cargo box, line up to the cargo box, get loaded. And it's annoying, right? It's just absolutely annoying. There needs to be like a step in that like gameplay loop that gets cut out. So it's even worse when you're selling, actually. When you're selling, it's horrible. It's not so bad when you're picking up. If you like have a load in your Hull C and you want to go sell it to a station, you have to hook up to the docking port, go inside, sell it, go back to your ship, undock, go to the cargo box, line up, get unloaded. It's like 7 steps, right? It's like just... I mean, I think that'll change. I honestly, with freight elevators, I think all that's going to change, allowing us to put these like 16 SU boxes and stuff like in our local inventory will change that. Because then the Hull C would be able to like come in, request cargo unload, not docking. You'd be able to go in, get your cargo unloaded. It would unload to local. Then you could go dockport your ship, go inside, and then go sell your cargo from the local inventory or from the freight inventory or whatever the hell they want to do, right? So I am not getting into whole sea trading right now. Not until, I think I'm going to be probably holding off on a lot of things until freight elevators, persistent hangars kind of exist, especially mining. I don't mind mining if I can stockpile goods. If you let me go out and mine in my mole, fill up whatever, I don't care. Like, I'll fill up the mole with a bunch of crap, and I can go in, dock, dump it all to local. Like, seriously, like, dock the mole while you're still on the pad, refuel, restock, repair, and then move all that ore to my local freight storage or whatever, and then call landing service and take off again. I never have to get out of the ship. Do multiple runs like that over and over and over, and just fill up my local storage with a bunch of stuff. And then I think that would incentivize people refining in stations after the Arastra comes out. Because then if you wanted to refine all that stuff in your Arastra, you have to load in your Arastra to your hangar, start moving that stuff slowly to your ship, running it through the process, which is another thing that you can do too. Or you can just not have anything on grid, and you just kind of reprocess that stuff and refine that stuff from your local. That would also make refining more I don't know, it would incentivize more people to refine, because the work order, when you're setting it up, you don't have to select a hauling ship for it to go to. It would just go to your inventory, right? So you constantly have that kind of, working in the background. That's another like kind of gameplay loop going on there, which is great. That's why I think that you're going to see a lot of quality of life improvements. Like, this is already really good for salvaging, but I think once we get freight hangars, and we get persistent hangars, and then we get the Arastra, and we get all this onboard ship refining and all this stuff, I think it's going to be industrial play is going to be huge. I'm not going to try to push any of my friends into coming in and mining or with me or doing salvage with me until a lot of that stuff is in play, because I think that they would have more fun if, we're docking into a hangar and I'm like, hey, we got to unload this ship, get it into the car or the freight elevator, and then we can go out again. And like, that's better now, because like right now, if they're in the mole, if they're out there mining with me, they get to basically sit in a mining gun, a mining turret. But other than that, there's nothing for them to do, because everything is just completely on the ship owner side. It's like, oh, we hang out in the mole while I run down the refinery real quick, and they tap their fingers. The mole needs to be redesigned anyway, because the fact that every time I've taken people with me in the mole, and I want them to just mine with me, they're like, okay, well, where am I going to be? I'm like, well, you're going to be in like either port, starboard, turrets, whatever, but don't get in it yet. And they're like, well, why can't I get in it? Well, because the port and starboard turret come down lower than the landing gear. So if we're sitting on pad, you don't want to flip the ship, right? Because that's what happens. So I want you to just stand there or go sit at the table in the mess area until we get into space, right? And I think that, I don't know if there's a fix for that. I mean, honestly, I think that that's just a design thing that is just kind of annoying. And I think that's why we've moved more to like remote turrets now, so that you could have all these people assigned to certain roles, and you could put them at their stations, and it's not directly affecting anything on the external side of the ship, because that's what it is. It's like the mole. You can't put your guys in port and starboard turrets without them basically causing you not to be able to get your landing gear on pad. So I think in all honesty, in my honest opinion, I think the Arastra is going to completely make the mole useless. I think the Prospector will still be fine. I think it's going to be still a really good place. I'll use the Prospector to train people. It's like, hey, get this. I'll even give them the credits. I was like, I'll give you the credits. Here's 2 million credits. Go buy a Prospector. I want you to spend a week, doing the mining thing and get really good at it. And then after everything they learn from that, they come over to the Arastra, run size 3 guns, and they have a clue what's going on, right? And I don't mind remote turrets. I think they're great. It allows everybody to be in like the same, physical area on the ship. And also just with the Arastra is going to, same thing with the Reclaimer. It's like, okay, if we're scraping a hull and we have somebody come in and we had to get people in turrets, we're not too far from actually getting them on those remote turret guns either, right? They come out of the scraper seats. They go down into the main kind of core of the area and jump on those terminals, as opposed to like other types of ships where it could be, a 30-second or a 120-second process to get them from one side of the ship roll to like a turret. And that just keeps you from having to man all that stuff. Because like I'm telling you, like if you're on a mining ship and you have people manning the turrets and the mining lasers, one of those people are going to be bored, and they're not going to enjoy the process. It's like, yeah, I'm running security for this mining crew. I'm just sitting in this turret, nothing's happening. And if the sales guys want to mine for hours and hours and hours, that guy's gonna be like, I could be doing absolutely anything else other than just sitting here, because chances are no one's gonna drop on you. Especially if you're, out in air on Halo or something, like, yeah, no one's gonna drop on you. Chances are nothing's gonna happen. So I think that's a really good incentive, is to keep people entertained. And a lot of that stuff's going to change too whenever the engineering gameplay comes out, and you'll have somebody assigned to actually running that stuff when wear and tear come out, and that's going to really hurt. That's going to be really, really interesting on how it affects solo play, just like what we're doing right now with the Reclaimer. I think that it probably won't hurt me too much, because probably what I'll do is go out for like a few runs like we're doing now, and then I would dock up, and then I would do a bunch of maintenance, and just kind of keep the wear and tear down, and kind of do that every day before and after a run. But as the ship ages, I can see there being a diminishing return on how effective you can really maintain it. So there might be a situation where we're like, okay, this Reclaimer's had, thousands of hours, and it's gotten to the point now where we basically can't keep it up and running realistically, so we basically take it out in the deep space and blow it the hell up and get a new one. I see that being a thing too. Because it's just like cars, right? Like you can be very good about maintaining a car and very good about, keeping it up, but after so many years, it's just going to depreciate so fast. The wear and tear is just gonna, overcome you, and no matter how much you can do to it, it's just you're stringing it along with jerry rigs and stuff like that. So, which I guess that would just strengthen the salvage gameplay. It's like, all right, we bought our new Reclaimer, which is brand new off the lot. We're going to take our old Reclaimer out to deep space, and we're going to hull scrape it, and we're going to fracture and disintegrate it with the new Reclaimer. And that's the life cycle of a ship. Good stuff. I would say that probably the most boring downtime right now for the salvage gameplay is this right here. Just to fracture, disintegrate. It just takes a while. And you can get closer and, further away. I think it's probably a big benefit of having like two people do this instead of solo. Because if you had somebody still in the pilot seat, you could kind of move closer and kind of move around to get those percentages into the plus and into the positive, which would speed it up. You could probably actually cut several minutes actually off of the whole process. You could probably actually take a 10-minute run and turn it into an 8-minute run with two people. Because at this point, when you're at the point that you're actually going into the trespass zone, your processor's already going to have started. By the time you actually get out of process, by the time you actually get out of the trespass zone and you bring your ship to a full stop, your processing guys are probably already going to have pulled out 4 to 6 16 SCU containers, which you can go down there and help them, or you can go look for that next contract. And by the time you actually fracture and disintegrate that next target, they're probably already done. So solo, it's like a 10 to 12 minute from contract to final process. For 2+ people, well, it's like if you have somebody in the claw and in the process room, you're probably 5 minutes. 5 minutes and you're good. You could probably do like, Jesus, 12 of these an hour before you really have to go offload, which is absolutely insanity. But this is going to be our final run. And right now I'm waiting for boost. And that's the other thing too, is like I use boost to the accelerator to kind of bring my speed down. My only goal, and I know it's like a big time sink, but the big goal is just to get out of that trespass zone as quickly as possible. You don't want to be processing while you're in the trespass zone because it's very easy for you to lose track of time. Now, if you final disintegrate on like 55 or 56 minutes remaining, you're not going to see hostiles, even if you stay in the trespass zone. I do it out of just pure good habit. You can be, you got to realize that this is our 6th run in a little over an hour. So you could do technically the entire, you could do frac, disintegrate, and process before even moving out of trespass. And when you're moving out of that trespass, your direction would be actually towards your next hammerhead target. I might test that. I don't know. I think it's just a bad habit to form. You definitely just don't want to stay in that zone. It's not going to be something tasty. What I'm going to do here is after we're done processing this final ship, we're going to make sure that the buffer is completely empty. And since we're already here, you can, like I've said in other videos, go to Hurdle 5, land on pad 4, and sell that way. But I think for the purpose of this video, in case anybody hasn't seen what the docking, there's one. I think this fell off of the main stack, but I'm gonna go and get this pushed back up here. I'm gonna actually dock at Grim Hex, so you guys can see what that process looks like. And I just don't recommend Grim Hex because there's also not a lot of people on the server right now, so it's one reason I'm doing it. You have to worry a lot about the asteroids and stuff in and around there. Not so much with taking off. If you get really used to taking off in Grim Hex, you can make a getaway pretty quick because there's not a whole lot of obstructions when leaving. But I try not to rush landing because a lot of things can go wrong. And the last thing you want to do is spend an hour, collecting a massive amount of 16 SU boxes just to come in like too fast or too hot and blow up on the hangar. Especially if you're being harassed. So this, I'm just kind of like moving this stuff around. I'm trying to like, clear this. This crate was fine before, but I think that it just needs to be moved over a little bit. You don't want to shove it too much. It could also just be things that are just like kind of shifting and stuff. That lower one. So it's like playing Jenga. You gotta be really careful not to just like have the whole mess come down. And that's why I usually stop at 6 hammerheads, because it just, obviously we can go on the backside here. And that's probably where I think that's where I end up putting the vast majority of the salvage off of this last run here, is in the back, because it's just not worth stacking any higher over here. So yeah, I'm clearing all this stuff, like put these up here. You usually get like 12 or so of these boxes per run, so I'm just gonna like make sure that these are good to go. Okay, move these over, and then that should clear the process. If you go for a 7th one, it's just gratuitous. I mean, at this point, it's like, let's not be greedy. Let's not, you don't want to risk crazy bugs or something to lose the whole load or anything. And as doing it solo, there's no reason to do anything but 16s, because you have to get this stuff processed and actually go fly the ship. So in a situation, if I was running process room right here, I would just probably do smaller sizes, and I'd be just doing it full time, right? They could be up there already, on frac with another ship. And if that was the case, if they were actually already fracking in another hammerhead up there, and I was messing around with all this craziness, trying to make sure everything doesn't fall on everything, then I'm just going to fall behind, right? It's just a problem that we have to... It just comes down to communication with your team. And right now the team is just me. But I'm also just trying to take my time. Like, I'm gonna make sure that I know I'm a little over an hour for the entire run, but the amount of value we're gonna get for this is worth it as long as I can get it all safely into the hangar and all that. And also, you could put them on the side of the processor here. I fight with this one so much, but you know, I could have done it better. But you know, I'm just at this point, I'm just like, you know, making sure that I'm just worried that like this whole like stack of crazy that I've got going on is just gonna like instantly explode the ship, but it doesn't. But yeah, you could put them on. You can put them on either side of the processor as well. You could double stack them, which you'll see. You could bring that one closer too, but I want to fill this area up over here because this is just spaces that are we can gridlock and they can be stable. Like right here. I think I try again here. Oh, there it goes. Nope. That little railing is obnoxious as hell. But also, I'm just going to put it over here. What I normally do is if I want to stack on that side of the processor, I'll just get on the opposite side of the railing and pull it over. But I like to double stack over here. Getting these up and over will be stable as long as you have those ones at the bottom gridlocked. Whoop, look at that. Yeah, look at that reflex. Saw that one fall and just grabbed it in midair. That was just, you know, the benefit of looking in that direction at the time. You like stay up there. Probably fit one more back up on this top of this thing. I think the last ones we're going to put to the side. At this point, we know this is our last run. So we just need everything to get to a spot where it'll just ride until we can kind of dock. So that one can hang out there. And then I'm pretty sure we have to like, yep, yeah, it's still going. So at this point, we can kind of stack onto the side of the processor here. So you kind of just got to watch out where that railing is. Back it in real nice and slow. There you go. And then I do the same thing over here. Because we're not going to have to interact with the panel anymore on this run. And you can still get to the panel, but we're just going to try to double stack. The last two we're going to put on top. And then whatever residual is left, I think we end up having like 5 SCU residual. So I end up spitting out like two SCU boxes and then one SCU box, just to make sure everything is in there. So this one I'm just going to put on top. Get it kind of over. Kind of set it up. Make sure it doesn't move. I'm looking at the screen and seeing, you know, where we're at exactly. So I know, because I think at this point is when I have to. Yeah, you could be right there. Don't move. There you go. Just make sure it doesn't move. So yeah, we got about 5. So I can switch down to do 2s. 2 and 2 seconds. I think I switched this one to 2 as well, but I could probably stayed on that one processor and taken care of this. I turned my laser on, like, ow, and I just screwed that up. Whatever, just leave it there. It's fine. And you put this 2 anywhere. Just make sure it's not in the way. We'll get this last 3 SCU processed here, and we'll go to Grim Hex. I'll show you guys the value here, which I know everybody's curious about. Let me know in the comments at this point what your guess is. And then also just follow up and if you got that right or not. Don't cheat. All right, this one's blocked. That one blocked because I had my laser on and we kind of messed that whole thing up. This is our last box here, and then we can get to Grim Hex. I want to show you the actual landing process here. I'm not going to make you sit through like the whole like storing the vehicle and all that. I think really people wanted to see what it's like to land at Hangar 13, legendary Hangar 13. But yeah, look at our beautiful work, our stacking job. All right, here we go. I also use scanning ping to look at rocks. When you ping the scanner, you're able to see the silhouette of rocks. So I use that when I'm getting out of trespass zones as well, to make sure that there's no asteroids hidden in shadow. Last thing you want to do is run into an asteroid when you're kind of trying to move around. But Hangar 13 is on the top of Grim Hex here. You can get pretty close to these asteroids, and you want to try to line up the best you can. The reason this is easier than, say, landing on a planet is because you're going essentially from space to basically the environment. So you can literally get right over the hangar, and then turn on your landing gear, and then just lower down and do that. Whereas like on a planet, when you're coming in, you don't really want to put your landing gear on until you're ready to like kind of get over the hangar at a pretty good height and then come down, because you're fighting atmosphere. But you're not losing altitude when you're just, when the only thing that separates space and the hangar is the door. You don't lose any altitude. You can literally just kind of like line this whole thing up. I usually try to line up to one side of the hangar the closest I can. Usually the back elevator side, 'cause that's where I exit. So if I could bring the reclaimer to the far end, then I know that when I come out of that back elevator, then we're good to go. We're closer to getting out of the hangar. All right, here is all of our goods. Go ahead, and this first little box, we take you to some of the smaller stuff. But while I'm selling this, I'm just gonna let you guys know, like, we started off with about 8.7 million in the wallet. This run plus fees, all of that ended up being over 10 million. So that was a million there, and then these right here, this is going to be 7 million. Craziness. About an hour and 15 ish from the first contract to landing to sell. So 10 million for about an hour of work is insane. If they don't nerf this, I would be surprised. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a pretty long one, but I wanted to kind of like give a really in-depth kind of view on what things are going on in the verse and all that, and with the not refining, but with the reclaimer and all that. But thank you for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.